Everyone, it's Desiree, and I am back with the second project, still focusing on this book pop-up metal die by Scrappy Tails. But before we get into that, let's do some ink smushing. You know, when I did the reveal, I had made mention of it, especially when it came to these butterflies. Well, you know what? The moment I said that, I had to go with it. So I just dug into my distress inks. I didn't want to use my oxides for this. Don't get me wrong, I love the look of the oxides when I do the ink smushing, but there is just something about the distress inks when you do this ink smushing. You get these hard lines, you get these spots, you get these self-splatters, you just get all of this texture. So I really wanted to go with that. Now, the colors that I used are Scattered Straw, Wild Honey, Tattered Rose, Aged Mahogany, Shaded Lilac, the Salvaged Patina, Evergreen Bough, Abandoned Coral, Crackling Campfire. So you can just see them going across there. And what I'm doing is I just grabbed, when I picked a shade, so when I looked at yellow, I said, you know what, I want Scattered Straw, I want Wild Honey. Now, as I'm building these, you can see I'm doing 2 layers of one color, and I'm going to get 2 different looks. So you're going to see a lot of drying here as well. So for my ink smushing technique, let's talk about that a little bit. So I put the ink down, I spray a little bit of water. The less water you put, the more vibrant your color is going to be. The more water you put down, the more watercolorish it's going to look. It's going to lighten it. When I do my ink smushing, like, you can really see those hard lines, and I keep turning the page as I'm drying it because those drips go all over the place. Okay, back to this. So after I put my ink down, after I spritz it, it's usually like 3, maybe 4 times. I go down and straight up. I go straight down and straight up. And I only do it once. I may go in a second time, but 9 out of 10, I want to hit it on the first time, going straight down and coming up. I get those splatter looks. I get those dots. I get those bobbles. I just get that texture right off the bat. If I would put this down and smush my paper, I'm going to get a watercolor effect. Now, some of you are probably saying, why are you not doing this on your glass mat? Yes, I hear you. I hear you. If I did this on my glass mat, I'm going to get more of a watercolor look. When I use a silicone mat, like I'm doing here, I'm getting those bobbles. I'm getting those splatters, those self-made splatters. Because the wood, when you add the water to the ink, it beads up. It will not bead up on a glass, on a piece of glass or a glass mat. So that's why I do have this small silicone mat sitting on top of my glass mat. So I hope that answered your question. So you can see I just got these 1 layer of colors. Now, this is Kitsch Flamingo. I absolutely love that color. I really do, but wow, was it bright. It is a really, really bright color. So what you're going to see in the next round that I'm going to come through is those that are really bright, because I do want bright colors, but I don't want rainbow. I don't want the rainbow screaming out at me. I want them to be subtle. I want them to be not as vibrant. So almost, yes, dare I say, we're going to go with a vintage feel. So those are the first layer of colors that I chose. Speckled Egg, Tattered Rose, Kitsch Flamingo, Shaded Lilac, Abandoned Coral, Salvaged Patina, and Scattered Straw. Now, I also have these outliers there too, because I will come in with a darker shade or a different shade. Here's the beauty about ink smushing. You can have multiple colors. You want to make sure that you are drying in between each layer. If it's the same color, you don't have to completely get it dry, but you still do want it to be dry so that you can get that texture built in. It's like when we do an ink blended background and we splatter it with water just to lift it up. These colors on their own will do it to themselves. And they'll move because that force of that air will shift these colors around. Again, I love the harsh lines. I love those drips. Like you can see that harsh line is just forming in that piece. And I love that. I like that in my watercolor, and I love that here. So here's that Kitsch Flamingo. It's one of the ones that I really focus on to pull her back. To not make this, wah, I am here, I am pink, hear me roar. Again, it's a beautiful color. So I just added some scattered straw on top of that. It looks beautiful, and you can see the scattered straw. It's not really mixing, because again, I'm drying in between those layers. All right. So this is the campfire. Now that I've put that on top of, let's see, which one is this? I think this is the abandoned coral. Yes. So I have this orangey mix going on top of that coral mix. And again, I can still see the coral and I can still see that crackling campfire. Now, if I would swoosh that paper, they will mix. Because remember, your distress inks are water reactive. Okay? They will react. That's not a word. They will come back to life with that wetness of the other color. How's that? Yeah. So you're just going to see me. I keep going back to that Kitsch Flamingo. And it actually turns out to be one of my favorites. Because I just keep adding these colors to it. Just to tone her down. And that's what the darker colors are going to do. They're going to tone these colors down. All right? And again, I am looking for that vintage feel. This is a black, here's that Kitsch Flamingo. So now I'm putting, so on this Kitsch Flamingo, I have that color. I put the scattered straw on top of that. I think that was the last one. And now I've come in with aged mahogany. It's perfect. It just, I can still see that pink flamingo, which I'm going to call it pink flamingo. But that aged mahogany just pulled her back just a little bit. Again, the book is black. That on its own is going to make all of these colors brighter. Okay? Super, super bright. I'm taking, you knew vintage photo was coming into this, right? I'm just saying. I took my vintage photo on top of the speckled egg. Yes, Vicky with the art journals, because I can't pronounce her last name. And I mean no disrespect with that. She has got me hooked on this color combination. It is a beautiful color combination. So I'm just adding that, but I still have a lot of that vintage photo. So you're going to see me pull in more panels with that. Here's the one with the tattered rose and the aged mahogany, and I added a little bit of brown to that. Again, just to deepen it just a little bit. But those black covers are going to make all of these be brighter than what they are, than what you're seeing right now. I'm testing out the two blues. I have Chip Sapphire and Faded Jeans. I wasn't quite, my hand keeps going there because I've been heat setting there. Because again, it's a heat resistant mat. So I'm like, hey, why am I holding these and burning my finger? But it was really hot. But it wasn't burning. Please don't do this. Do not do with the hot stuff that I do in the video. Do all the crafty stuff. So the color that I chose here was Chip Sapphire. It is way too much. I put way too much down. And it just overtook, literally overtook I think it was the patina, the salvage patina one that I did. Yeah, it did. It just overtook it. So I keep trying to play with it. No, this is the salvage patina. I'm sorry. It overtook the shaded lilac. That's the one that it took. I do like shaded lilac and chipped sapphire together because chipped sapphire actually has a hint of purple into it. So it really accents that shaded lilac, but boy, did I go crazy with it. Tried to add some green into it. Love the panel. We'll keep it. We'll do other things with this. I'm pulling in all of those solid dies now, the silhouettes, and I'm going to be doing a lot of die cutting. And I always do my die cutting off camera. So I've also cut other panels. So my outside panel, or yes, the outside panels that I cut here, I trimmed them down just to be a little bit smaller. So I cut it down to be, if I'm not mistaken, 4 1/4 by 6 1/2. Okay. And I cut 2 of those. One that I'm using for the outside, but I'm going to trim it down, and then one for the inside left. Okay. So I'm using that beautiful stamp. Now remember, this stamp and the die that I'm going to pull in, the moon die, remember, those are incentive dies and stamp sets, which means if you spend a certain amount, you will receive these items as long as supplies last. So if you spend $75 or more at Scrappy Tails, you will receive this stamp set. Again, if supplies are still there. If you spend over $125, then you will receive both the stamp and the die. Again, as long as supplies last. So the embossing powder that I'm using throughout this, it's by Recollections. For those of you that have seen my previous video, I am a huge fan of the Recollections embossing powder. I think they perfectly melt. That was the word I was looking for. This one here that I am using is called Glitz. It is a holographic pearl glitter. It's got everything. It is absolutely gorgeous. And I was like screaming as I was heat setting it because I didn't realize it was going to do this. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I used that, and I used my white pigment ink as the base by Hero Arts to stamp that image first, and then I put that over it. I'm now coming in with one of my makeup brushes, and I just cannot seem to get situated here. Again, I have the magnets up on top. Remember, just so everyone knows, in case you didn't see that video, my whole glass mat is magnetized. So I can use those magnets to hold items down. When you have them on a diagonal, when you have two, it holds better. When you put them just on the top, it's going to swing. And I found that out. But working through it, we're good. So I have this panel here. Now what I did was I measured the inside opening of the book. So this piece was cut to 3 1/2 by 5 3/4. Okay, so 3 1/2 by 5 3/4. You can see how technical I am. I'm just taking the whole container and dumping it on. I used the Starry 6x6 stencil, and I used the one with all of the stars in it, as you saw. And now I'm just going to heat set that. Again, I started with that white pigment. It's going to give me the base of white. It's going to take forever to dry, but now I can heat set it. So I can add any embossing powder that I want to that. And this glitz is just, look at that. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And I know I'm moving too fast. You really aren't getting the full effect of it. I'm using a microfiber cloth just to wipe away the powder that I did use on the front. I'm coming in with my deckled edge scissors by Fiskars. I believe these are still available. I found mine on Amazon. They're tough to find. But I think I have them linked in my Amazon storefront. So if you did want to check that link out, you can. I have one for card making, junk journals, drawing, and all of that fun stuff if you want to be nosy. So I'm just cutting around the edge, and now I'm going to come in around using my makeup brush again, using my white pigment ink, again, just to give that cloudy effect. Because I'm not adding any other borders to this. I'm not adding any other elements. And I was thinking about it. I was really thinking about pulling in the branches, the A2 panel size branches and cutting them up and then just setting them every so often in both vellum and gold. But I kind of went away from that. I'm taking the panel that's going to go onto the left-hand side, and I'm using those scissors again, just cutting off an edge. And I'm going to go around that edge as well with what's left on my makeup brush with my white pigment ink, just to soften those edges as well. And plus it'll help it to stand up off the black. These are all the awesome butterflies that I absolutely love. And then I also remember it has a detailed die, a layering die that goes on top. I cut those out using vellum. So I'm just choosing which ones I want to go with. I'm going to lean towards the yellows, the oranges, the reds, because again, I have this dark blue background, I have this black border going around it. I think the blues would have gotten lost and they wouldn't have been as visible. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm choosing those bright colors, and yes, they will be saved. Yes. And then the panels, even that I die cut from, I save those too, because I take those and hole punch them and I make jewelry out of those. So it's fun. Okay. So I'm just going to put glue down the center of the piece of vellum and layer that on top of the ink smooshed background. And I don't think I told you, the paper that I used for my ink smooshing was watercolor. I know, late to the game. Was actually Canson XL watercolor paper. So watercolor, Bristol. So again, I'm just using, and I'm using my Barely art glue on this because I know how the art glitter glue works when it comes to building all of this. So I'm actually testing out the Barely art in this to see just how fast grabbing it is. And it is, it's fast grabbing. Just putting it onto the body of the butterflies, and I'm just layering those up. I want those wings to curl. I want those wings to come up, give me even more dimension, and I'll show you when I put them in the book how I deal with that, especially with one that I set in the book. Again, this book die is completely interactive. There is just a lot that we will be able to do with this to come. I mean, any stamp set you have is perfect for this. You don't have to have certain ones. Anything will work into this. You just got to fussy cut them or die cut them. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. So if you remember in the one that you just saw previously, the cloud one, I had done the folding on the covers, on the book cover pages. I did not do that this time. And I did find it easier. Now remember, you want to make sure the only fold that I did was the one furthest in, the second one, okay? Not the center one. I'm not worried about that one yet. On the other page, I did create that curl because it was easier for me to come down onto those pages. I am now working all of those folds, and I have beautiful creases going on. Now we're just going to do our accordion. Again, the paper that I'm using both for the cover and for these accordions here is the Stampin' Up! Very Black. And again, I think they're like 80, 85 pounds. I'm not sure. Maybe they are 100 pounds. I don't know. I did not have any issues making the accordion. The accordion is, though, a little thicker. Okay, so it does expand, because as you can see, I'm not coming in with a bone folder. I'm just folding them. I'm using my fingers to press down on that. After I get it together, I'm forming it back into place. I'm pushing them all together with my fingers. But you can use a bone folder, and you should. I mean, to get those good creases and all of that. But I'm just not doing that. So again, this is just a little bit looser than normal. So again, when you're taking your accordion pieces, you can see the two ends are, the edges are going into each other. You want to make sure that's how you're putting these accordion. Every other one, and those tweezers, those reverse tweezers, are lifesavers for me. Because my OCD was coming in, I really wanted those corners to snap in. Now, as you're wiggling those two, they will just go right into each other and they'll stop. You won't be able to wiggle them anymore. So that's when I know, grab my tweezers, come up, slide up the side, making sure the two end folds are free, and I'm pinching all of that together so that I can lift these flaps up and put my glue or my tape down in there. So again, you're going to come in, you're going to wiggle it, push it together, and slide that pair of tweezers right up. I cut two pieces from my tape, and then I just make sure they are set in the corner. And make sure you flip it to the back side and do that. Just saying. Yeah, I was ready to put, I think the first one, the one that I was playing with, I'm like, why is this so loose? I totally didn't flip it over and did the back side. So remember, you're doing this 8 times. 4 corners, both sides. All right, so that was just a little bit slower too. You can see how I get those scissors right up in there. The Spellbinder's point is just beautiful. Now, and don't push too hard because you will go through the cardstock because it's got a good point. Just learn from my mistakes, I'm just saying. So, what I did find too, as I was playing with this, so tape is quicker. I mean, if you have a good, strong, double-sided tape, great. If not, again, you can use a glue, just make it quick drying, because again, there's a lot of pressure that's sitting in this frame with this accordion. I mean, it eases up and it balances itself out across the frame as you get each corner completed. But there's still pressure there. So you want to make sure that you have a good, strong bond, but you don't need it around all of the edges. So just know that as well. Here is where I'm going to now come with my bone folder just along the long sides. I'm going to grab my clear ink. So a vintage book or a book. Sometimes we have books where the sides are gold. They're gilded gold. And it looks absolutely beautiful. But this is what I wanted to do with this. So I pushed it down into my clear ink pad. And then I'm just shoving it into my gold embossing powder. Again, by Recollections. And now we're going to heat set that. You really want your heat gun to already be hot and ready to go. Because remember, you are putting heat, and a lot of heat, in that corner where the tape is. It could release it. Now, mine did not, which I was very surprised at. But it could. You want to make sure that you knock all of the embossing powder out so that you don't leave any in the crevices. All right? By tapping it down onto the pad, you're just getting it on those edges. Now, my container is big enough that I'm able just to dip down into it, which made it a lot easier. Trying to funnel it through like we normally do with our, either pieces of paper or whatever, it kind of got into the cracks and I really had to knock it out. So just added a little bit of touch of embellishment onto the side of those pages. Here you'll see I am using the glue. I'm not using any tape. I find that the side that I'm putting it on, put it to my left so that I can see the 2 corners. And then I know I'm putting it down where I want it to. Because remember, my accordion frame is slightly smaller than the sides of the book. Because I like that edge just to stick out like it would in a book. Okay? You don't have to do that. You can make it even. It's just something that I wanted to do. Here's that moon I was telling you about. Beautiful detail, and it has a beautiful star that goes with it. So I've put that one panel in that I stenciled, and now I'm putting the moon there. Now I know I want it to sit here because the butterflies are going to be along the bottom and coming up the right. I'm then going to place the star right off the bottom edge of the moon and make it look like it's swinging. I'm going to take my other panel that I made and I'm going to adhere that onto the other side and just center that there. That's where we can write our message. Here I'm going to have fun placing all of my butterflies. Now the one butterfly that I kept, which was the speckled egg and vintage photo, she's going to go to the front. I wanted to keep these on the inside, mainly with the yellows and the reds and, or excuse me, like the reddish oranges and the pinky orange-y colors. I'm loving the fact that as I'm placing these, that the wings are coming up over the frame. You don't have to do that. I just really liked the way that looked. And you guys know me, I've got to have odd numbers. So I had 4 butterflies on that side. So now I need to put the 5th butterfly. So I'm making sure that where that butterfly is sitting, when the book is closed, it will go right into that spot where the moon is. So it's not going to hit any of the other butterflies. And if it does, it's okay. It's just going to collapse on itself. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't hitting the frame. I did not want it to hit that frame. I wanted it to go into it. So for those wings that are coming off over the frame, like the yellow one, they really curl up because of the vellum. It's gorgeous, but if I kept it that way, when you close the book, they may pinch up and they may fold over. So I'm just putting a small amount of glue. I am okay that you may see the glue mark. I'm good with it. And I'm just tacking those wings down, still keeping the dimension of what those wings are giving us. Again, lifting up and just putting our pieces in there and then just pushing right down on that whole accordion to set them in place. It's ingenious. It is absolutely ingenious. And absolutely loving it. Now that one butterfly next to the moon, I have that butterfly set far back in. So that wing's not popping over. Okay, so let's work on our cover. So again, I did use this sentiment again. Absolutely love it. Putting that on the front. And even though it's a dark blue with all of that white, and then the camera is just not picking up that beautiful glitz embossing powder. It just looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to set that large open butterfly down on that bottom right hand corner. Make sure those vellums are up. A pink one's going to sit up in the corner. I had one that was perfectly set to come down in that corner. But again, I only had 2. I had to have a 3rd. So I took one, I grabbed my paper creasing tool, went right down the center. I bent it in half, and that's going to sit right on the spine. So remember, you can decorate your spine as well. And there's my 3rd embellishment. Remember, I've got to have 3s. I don't know why. So think about that sitting on a bookshelf. That butterfly will just be sitting there. It does extend over onto the sides, but it is very well secured there because, again, I did use liquid adhesive, and it's not giving me any issues opening and closing my book in any way, shape, or form. I do hope you enjoyed this project. I hope I did give you some tips and tricks. But by all means, I will be linking to Sabrina's 2 videos that she has created for this die set as well. Again, she does make it look so easy, a lot easier than I did. But as I kept on working with it, I found these tips, I gathered these tricks and said, well, if I do this and if I do this. So as I kept on working with it, and I have so many more ideas as we continue throughout the year. So make sure you check out her shop. I'll have that link down below. I will have her 2 videos linked down below. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave those down below. And either I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If it's for Sabrina, she'll keep an eye out on these. I know she will. And maybe she will be the one that will be able to answer your question as well. All right, guys, I really enjoyed this. I hope you found it interesting as well. All right, so take care, guys. Continue to smile. By all means, laugh, enjoy. But as always, remember what's most important for me. Always be creative, guys. Till the next video, take care.